Are your athletes struggling to reach their full potential because of language barriers? Welcome back to Translation Timeout. Today we're going to talk about working with translators and interpreters. The handout in the description will help you make a plan of the types of services you might need for each of your players. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below or email me at translationtimeout@gmail.com. So if you're thinking about getting a translator or interpreter, the first thing you need to know is what the difference is between them. Translators work with written content, typically remotely and into their native language. So how does that fit into a sports team? Well, you could translate notes for players who don't have strong English proficiency. You could translate a roster card for a player's family who's visiting from overseas. Maybe you have press releases and social media posts translated or subtitled for international fans. And maybe a player is more comfortable speaking in their native language, so you could record them speaking in it and then have the video subtitled and translated into English. Interpreters, on the other hand, deal with spoken content. They're ideal for live situations like press conferences, hospital visits, and meetings, and can work either in person or virtually. When I was an English teacher in public schools, I coordinated quite a bit with both in-person and over-the-phone interpreters to communicate with families who didn't have very strong English skills. With the over-the-phone interpretation, I would call a number, then punch in a code for the language that I wanted, and within a couple of seconds, they would connect me with an interpreter who could support us through our conversation. So now that you've decided what type of service you need, now you need to decide, are you going to work with an agency or a freelancer? And there are definitely benefits to both, it just depends on what you need. So an agency, for example, can handle multiple languages and services at once. So if you need a translation and voiceover and multimedia project translated into Czech and Latvian and Russian, a project manager at an agency would handle all the logistics for you for all the languages. Now, if you go with a freelancer, they're typically more cost effective and you'll be in closer communication. I was a project manager for a translation company for several years, and it was very rare that a client would actually have a direct line to the linguist. I was almost always the middleman. So if you have very special requests and you would feel more comfortable talking directly with the linguist, then a freelancer would be a better fit for you. Okay, so now you know what service you need and you know who you want to work with. I just want to give you a couple extra tips for making everyone's life easier during the translation or interpretation process based on my experience working in the industry. First, figure out what locale you want. Your athlete speaks Spanish, but is that for Spain or for Mexico? Does your player need simplified or traditional Chinese in their translation? Many languages have significant regional differences, so one size is not going to fit all. Figure out those locales up front so that you make sure you're spending money on resources your players will actually use. Next, you want to provide as much reference material as possible so linguists can give the most accurate translation. And if you have words that you want translated a certain way or not translated at all, like your team name, let the linguist know. Give your linguist as much time as possible to complete the project and let them know as soon as possible if you have a tight deadline or any budget constraints. As a general rule of thumb, the tighter the deadline, the more expensive it will be, and you also might risk quality issues because the linguist is going to have to work faster to meet the time limit. It's also good to batch your files whenever you can, so if you have 3 files that need to be translated into 3 different languages, send one project request to an agency instead of sending 9 different requests. Or if you're sending multiple files to a freelancer, send them all together instead of sending them one at a time. This is not only great for them because they can keep things organized, ensure consistency across files, but it's also good for you because it often helps you get around paying minimum fees. My final tip is to use consistent wording as much as possible in written documents. Linguists will save translations in a memory bank that they can use in future projects for consistency and even to provide discounts, but it only works when the wording is the same between documents. So if you have people like baseball in one document and folks enjoy baseball in another, a computer is not going to flag those as matches. And what this really means is that you're going to keep paying for the same translation over and over again. So when you're getting language services for your athletes, remember that translators are for written language and interpreters are for spoken language. So you're hiring the right person for the job. And going along with that, make sure you understand exactly what you need from your language services, like the locale and the target audience, so your linguists are working under the right parameters. In the handout in the description, you'll make a list of the languages your players speak, the locales of those languages, if it's relevant, and whether they might need interpreters or translators for specific situations. Keep this on hand throughout the season, so as those situations come up, you're able to provide the right type of support for them. Reach out if you have any questions and stay tuned for my next video where I'll talk about working with English teachers. Thanks for watching and see you again soon.